Hey guys, what is up? This is Jailus, and today I'm gonna teach you how to create this underwater skull island using Photoshop. So first, let's go over to File. Let's create a new document, and we're gonna name this one Skull Island. We're gonna choose pixels for this one and give it a width of 2000, a height of 1500, and a resolution of 100. And then just simply click create. So now we have a new canvas here, and we're gonna set up our guides. So just press Ctrl R and it's gonna show a ruler above and on the left corner of our canvas. So I'm gonna set our guide and just drag this one over here, and I'm gonna put it somewhere in 8.5. So this is going to be where our C will lie, and the end will be on 6 inches over here. So now we can start dragging the photos that we're gonna be using in our photo manipulation. So first here is we're going to have our C, and we're just gonna simply drag it over here. There you go. And now let's use our rectangular marquee tool and let's create a selection in the C over here, just like this. And now we can press Ctrl J to duplicate the selection, right click on the layer here and convert this one to a smart object so that we can preserve the details whenever you want to make it smaller or you want to make it bigger. So now we can delete this one by just pressing delete key on our keyboard. Now I'm just gonna align this one over here just by dragging it. There you go. Press Ctrl T, right click and choose perspective. So I'm just gonna zoom out in this one. I think this one will do. And we're just gonna simply drag these points down here. And I'm gonna end somewhere over 80 over here. Click the check mark here to confirm the transformation. Press Ctrl T again. Hold the shift key in your keyboard, and we're gonna drag this one over here to match our guide. And then you can just press the confirm once again. And so we have our C over here, and I want to give it a teal color and lower a bit of its brightness. So now let's head over to our adjustment layer icon and let's create a color balance adjustment layer. Now let's create a clipping mask by clicking this icon so that it only affects the image that is directly down below our adjustment layer. And now let's drag the cyan over to -100, and I'm gonna give the green to somewhere over 20. So now I think this is okay. I want to lower some of its brightness, so let's head over to our adjustment layer icon again, and we're going to add a brightness or contrast adjustment layer. Let's create a clipping mask, and I'm gonna decrease the brightness to about -40. And I don't really want to make it very dark for our highlights here, so I'm going to increase that a bit. So we're going to add another brightness adjustment layer. Let's create a clipping mask, and I'm going to put this one to about, I think 80 will do. And now let's use blend if so that we can remove some of those brightness on those dark areas. So just double click on this side here, and it's gonna pop up this dialog box. And in the underlying layer over here, we're gonna use the blend if. So we're just gonna hold the alt key in our keyboard, and we're gonna drag this one over here, and see it disperses our brightness or the light areas, and it's decreasing the light areas in those dark areas. So as you can see here, I think I'm going to put this one somewhere over 180. I think this one will do. So let's just group this one. So just click on this and hold the shift key on your keyboard and click on this layer over here, and it's going to select all those layers, and then press Ctrl G to group them, and we're going to rename this one to our C. So now let's click on our background and let's create a new solid color. So let's go to adjustment layer icon again. Let's choose solid color. This is going to be the number that we're going to use for the color that we're going to use in the ocean underneath. So it's going to be 084152, and then just hit OK. So now right click on this one and convert this one to a smart object. Press Ctrl T, hold the shift key on your keyboard, and we're going to drag this one just to hide the top layer. Press the check mark to confirm the transformation. So now let's create a new layer by clicking this icon over here, and let's use a brush tool, and make sure you have a white foreground color over here and also a soft round brush. So I'm gonna limit my flow to about somewhere over 10 to 20%, and then we're gonna change the blending mode from normal to soft. soft light. So there you go. We're just going to make our brush bigger, so just hold the Alt key plus right click and drag it right or left to adjust the size of our brush. And then I'm just gonna simply paint on some lights over here for the lights coming from the sky. So these are just simple tap just to create those lights underneath our ocean. Then we're gonna rename this one to light. And let's create another layer. So let's create a new layer. And then we're going to use a brush tool again. And this time we're going to use a black foreground. So just press OK. And just remember to lower your flow. I think 3 will do for this one. We're gonna rename this one to shadow. So we're gonna slightly put some shadows in the left and right corner of our sea underneath. So just simple taps here to create a subtle shadow, just like this. So adding these shadows gives our overall photo manipulation a bit of depth. Okay, so I think this one will do for now. So now let's do the same thing and group this one. So hold the shift key and click this one over here. Press Ctrl G and we're gonna rename this one to Sea Underneath. So now I think we can remove our guides. So we're just gonna drag this one over here. And now we can drop our skull image. So we're just gonna drag and drop it over here. So from here you can use any selection tool you want. But for me, I'm just gonna use the color range process for this one. So if you want to learn, just follow along. Let's go to adjustment layer icon and we're gonna use the black and white adjustment layer, and let's just create a clipping mask. So in order for this process to take effect, we need our image to be dark and the background to be white. So since our skull image here is composed of yellows and some reds, we're just gonna need to drag our yellow slider to the left side and also the red one. So now I think we can't do any farther than this, so we need to have another adjustment layer. So let's create adjustment layer again and we're gonna choose levels, create a clipping mask, and we're just gonna simply drag this one over here to make it darker. So I think this one will do. So if you really want to have a perfect selection, you can just add a new layer and you're just going to use a brush tool, and of course with the black foreground, just simply paint on. So just increase the flow to 100% and just simply paint on those areas that are white, just like this. Okay, so there you go. Let's select your image first and then let's go over to select and we're gonna choose color range. And for this drop down menu here, we're going to choose shadows and then just press OK. So now we can create a layer mask by just clicking this icon over here, and we can just simply hide these layers. So in here we need to erase this part here, so we can just use a brush tool, and with the black foreground we need to use a hard round brush for this one, and we're just gonna simply erase these areas that we don't need. Then we could just right click on this one and convert this one to a smart object, and just simply drag this one to our Skull Island canvas and just press Ctrl T, and we're just going to make this one smaller and rotate this one. We're just going to put this one at the center, and I'm just gonna bring in some guide here, and I think this is perfect for now. And then we're just gonna simply drag this one below our C group. So just drag this one over here and make sure it's not going inside our C group. Now let's try to darken our skull image here. So first let's select our layer here and let's rename this one to skull, and let's go ahead and create adjustment layers for this one. So create adjustment layer. The first one is we're going to add levels, and since our skull here is under the sea, it needs to be a bit darker, so we just need to simply create a clipping mask over here and drag this one to, I think, 130 will do for this one. And I'm just gonna darken those shadows a bit more, so we're going to drag this one over here to the right side. So I think I'm gonna give it 85 for this one, and just give it a grungy look for our skull image. So the next adjustment layer we're gonna add is color balance, so that we can match the color of our skull to the color of our background. Let's go to the adjustment layer icon over here, and we're going to add color balance. Create a clipping mask, and I think the cyan, we need some cyan over here. I think -80 will do for this one, and I'm just gonna bring out some blues, and I think 45 will do for this one. So now we need to add some light areas in this area over here, because it is close to the surface of our sea. So let's add another adjustment layer, and we're going to choose brightness for this one. Let's create a clipping mask, and I'm just gonna drag this one to 150, and we're gonna use another blend if for this one. So just double click on the layer over here, and we're going to hold our Alt key in our keyboard and separate this slider over here, just to lower the overall brightness in our skull image. 230 will do for this one. Okay, so now it blends more to the sea underneath. Play around with the slider over here until you're satisfied, and then just simply press OK. And if you think this is way too light or too bright, you can always go to the layer mask in your adjustment layer, and you can use a brush tool and with a black foreground. So just set your brush to a soft round brush and just lower your flow to about 10%. So we can erase some of this brightness here. So just make sure to use a black foreground, a soft round brush, and just lower the flow. So I'm just gonna erase some of those brightness over here, since this part is under the ocean, and this one over here is a little bit brighter since it is closer in the surface of our sea. So just by doing this, okay, I think this one looks better. Making it dark over here makes it a bit realistic. So now we can just simply group this one over here. So just hold the shift key and then just press Ctrl G to group those layers, and we're gonna rename this one to our skull. So now it's time to drag our island image. So we're gonna use this image over here, and we're just gonna do the same process from what we did with our skull image. So we can actually remove our guide here by just pressing Ctrl R. So now we're just gonna head over to our adjustment layer icon. We're gonna add a black and white adjustment layer. Let's create a clipping mask. So the same thing. So since our image or our island here is composed of green, so we're just gonna simply drag our green on the left side, and we need our background to be white. So we just need to drag our cyans to the right side, and I think it is also composed of some yellows. So we're gonna need to drag our yellows to the left side, and I think the blues, I think it will remain this way, and the reds will be on the left side to make it a bit more darker. So now we can just simply add another adjustment layer, and we're gonna use levels. Let's create a clipping mask, and we're just gonna drop this one somewhere over here, and also this over here. And we can actually just create a new layer and just use a brush tool with a black foreground, and we're just gonna simply paint in these areas so that it's going to be selected whenever we use the color range process. So we can also remove those areas here by just using a white brush, and just simply paint on those areas that you don't need. Now we can go over and select our background image here. Then let's go to select and choose color range, and just remember to select shadows for this one, and then just press OK. Okay, so now we can just press Ctrl J to duplicate our selection. Right click on this one and convert this one to a smart object, and just simply drag our image over here, and then press Ctrl T, and we're just gonna make this one smaller and match the width of our skull image. We're actually going to put this one above our sea layer just like this. So I think this one will do. We can also erase some of these parts, so I'm just going to create a layer mask, and we're gonna use a brush tool with a black foreground over here, and we're just gonna simply erase this messy parts in our island image. And we can just simply convert this one again back to a smart object. So now I think we need to duplicate this one so that it can have some shadows over in this area, since I think our light source will be on the left side. So just simply press Ctrl J, and this one over here, the layer below, this is going to serve our shadow. So now just press Ctrl T, right click on this one, and we're going to choose flip vertical, and just simply match our island shadow over here, and just hold the shift key, and I think we're just going to make this one a little bit smaller. So I think this one will do. So now go to effects, choose blending options, and the color overlay here is going to be black. Just press OK, just press OK, and we're going to lower the opacity. I think 30% will do for this one. Then let's head over to filter, blur, and let's add a Gaussian blur. And I think I'm gonna give it a 5 pixels for this, and then just press OK. So we can also change the angle of our shadow here just by pressing Ctrl T, and we can just simply drag these areas points here. To individually drag the points, hold the Ctrl key in your keyboard, and just simply drag these areas just like this. So now we have our shadow, and our island here, our main island, needs a bit of shadow also. So let's just add an adjustment layer. So let's go to adjustment layer icon, let's head over to brightness, let's create the clipping mask, and we're just gonna lower this one to about -50, since our light source will be over here and it is going to be in the front of our island image. So this part over here will be a bit darker, and we're just going to decrease some of the contrast because I think it is a little bit sharp. So I think this one will do for now. Now I think we need to erase some of this darkness in this in the left side of our island, since the light source is over here. So we're just going to use a brush tool, and with a black foreground, let's just simply erase this part here. So soft round brush, and we're just gonna simply erase those darkness over in this area. And if you want to bring back those shadows, just press X or just click this icon over here, and it's going to change into white foreground, and you can just simply paint on or paint back those shadows. Okay, so I think I'm satisfied with this one. So now let's just group this one, and we're gonna name this one to Island. Okay, so I think the perspective of our sea surface over here is a little bit off, so we can just simply fix this one. So just click on this sea image here, and it's also going to select the layer, press Ctrl T, and just hold the shift key in our keyboard, and we're just gonna drag this top layer over here, confirm the transformation, and I think this one looks better and it matches the perspective of our island. So now it's time to add some mountains over in this area. So this is going to be the first image that we're going to add, and over here, so we're just gonna use a pen tool for this one, since I think we can't use a color range process since our mountain is composed of white areas. So we're just going to use a pen tool. So now right click, make selection, and I'm just gonna use 1 pixel for the feather here to make it smoother, and then just press OK. Now press Ctrl J to duplicate the selection, right click, and convert this one to a smart object. And we can just simply drag this one to our canvas. So we need to drag this one to the top, and now press Ctrl T, and we're just going to make this one smaller, just like this, and just hit confirm. So I think this one will be behind our island, so I'm just gonna put this one below the island group. And since this mountain over here is gonna be behind our light source, we need to make it darker and less detailed. So let's go over to adjustment layer, let's choose levels, and let's just create a clipping mask. So we just need to drag this slider over here to the left side to make it darker. And I think 65 will do for this one. And I'm just gonna remove the overall details, so just simply drag this middle slider over here. 3.35 will do for this one, just to reduce the overall detail of our mountain image. So now we just need to reposition this one. So just select our mountain over here, and I'm going to put this one somewhere in this area. And I don't want this part here to be distracting the eye of our viewer, so we can just simply press Ctrl T and hold the Control key on our keyboard and just drag this one over here just like this, and also the bottom part. And I think I'm going to make this part here a little bit smaller, just to match the perspective. Okay, so I think this one will do for now. So just click the move tool here. So now it's time to add some color adjustment on this one, and let's head over and click this upper layer or adjustment layer. Let's create another adjustment layer and let's select color balance. Let's create a clipping mask, and we're just gonna drag this cyan to, I think, -45 will do for this one. I'm also gonna give it some green, so I think 25, and I think 30 for the blue, or I'm just gonna make it 40. So there you go. So I think the green really is really needed on this one. So if you drag the green to the middle part, it's going to be bluish, and we're just simply gonna add some green just to make it balance. So I think that one will do. So I just need to remove this part over here, so just go over in this area or this image. Let's create a layer mask and let's use a brush tool, and with the black foreground, let's just erase this part over here. I'm also gonna use a hard brown brush for this one. Right click on this one and convert this one back to a smart object. So now let's click on this upper layer and let's create a new layer, and we're just going to create some fog over here. So let's use a brush tool and let's use a soft round brush, and we're going to lower the flow to about 3%, and we're going to sample some of the color here. So just hold the Alt key and just select this color here, and just simply brush over in this area so that it can create a smoother transition from our mountain image to our sea image. Okay, so I think that one looks better. So this is the before and this one is the after. So you can also just adjust the position of your mountain. So I think I'm just gonna drag this one over here, and also the bottom part. There you go. And now the next thing we're gonna add is another mountain over here. So this is going to be the image that we're going to use. So in this image, we're going to use a quick selection tool, and we're just going to simply drag over in this area, and Photoshop is gonna automatically create a selection around those mountains. Press Ctrl J to duplicate, right click on this one and convert to smart object. And let's just press V or just click the move tool, and we're just gonna simply drag this one to our Skull Island file. We're gonna need to put this one up here. So I think we also have to group these layers first. So just hold the Shift key and just click this layer, and it's also going to select those layers in between, and just press Ctrl G to group them, and we're gonna name this one to Left Island. So this one over here, we need to make it smaller, so just press Ctrl T, right click on this one and flip horizontal. We need to remove some parts here, so just create our layer mask. We're gonna use a brush tool. We're just going to increase the flow, and we're gonna use a hard brush tool. And remember to use a black foreground when erasing from a layer mask. And we're just gonna simply erase some of the parts over here. So we can convert this one back to a smart object. And I think we're gonna drag this one somewhere in this area. I think that will do. You can also rasterize this layer and just simply erase those parts that you don't need. You can also hold the shift key on our keyboard and just make a point here with your brush and also a point here, and it's going to create that smooth and straight erased path. So just like this, I think we're going to erase some of these parts more. I don't actually need the tree over here, so I'm going to erase that part. So now we can convert this one back to a smart object, and I'm just gonna put this one over here. Control T. We're just gonna drag this one over here, so just simply hold the control key and drag this area over here and also this part. So we just need to make this one a little bit bigger, so convert this one back to a smart object, and we're just going to increase the scale of this one to match the other scale of mountain. And I think drag this one over here. Okay, so I think this one will do. And we're just gonna copy the adjustment layers that we made in our previous island. So just open this group here. So just hold the control key to select multiple layers, and then just press Control C. Let's head over to our island over here, and then just press Control V. Create a clipping mask. So just hold the Alt key and click in between to create a clipping mask, just like this. And also for the other one, there you go. And I think it is a bit darker compared on this side. So let's head over to our levels, and we're just going to decrease the brightness here, and we're just going to decrease the brightness a bit. Okay, so I think that will do. Now we just need to create another layer again, and we're just gonna do the same thing from like the other mountain. So just sample a color here, and just make sure to use a soft round brush and lower your flow. And we're just gonna simply paint on some fog over in this area. You can also lower the opacity just by dragging this slider over here. Okay, so I think we need to drag this part of the mountain here. So let's click on this island here. Let's press Control T, and we're just gonna drag this one somewhere on this area, so that our island over here is going to have more of a focus on the eyes of our audience. We just need to group these layers again so that we can have a clean and organized layer in this layer panel. So just simply press Ctrl G to group, and let's rename this one to Right Island. So the last thing we're gonna add is another mountain over here. So this is going to be the image that we're going to use, and we're just simply going to create a selection. So let's use a quick selection tool, and let's just create a selection here. And I don't really need this part here, so you can just hold the Alt key to deduct from the existing selection, just like this. There you go. Okay, so now just click the move tool and press Ctrl J to duplicate the selection. Right click and convert this one to a smart object. So now we can just simply drag this one to our canvas over here. Press Ctrl T and just make this smaller. Okay, just like this. And we're actually going to put this one on the bottom part of all our layers. So we're just gonna simply drag this one over here. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so now let's add an adjustment layer on this one, so to match the color of our overall photo manipulation. So let's create adjustment layer, and let's choose color balance. Let's create a clipping mask, and we're gonna drag the cyan somewhere over, I think negative 76 will do. and it's a little bit green, so I think we need to add some blue on this one. So I think 50 will do. So now it's turning to blue. We just need to add some greens into it. Okay, so I think 25 or 26 will do for this one. So this is going to add perspective depth in the photo manipulation. So this part here is closer, so it's going to be darker, and this part here is the farther, so the color is going to be lighter compared to the mountain over here. And now we can just simply group this one. So select this layer also by holding the control key, and then just press Ctrl G to group, and let's rename this one to mountain number 3. So now it's time to add our sky background. So let's select the background over here. We're going to use the sky background here, so just drag and drop. Okay, there you go. And we're just going to reposition and put it somewhere in this area. I think this one will do. Let's create a new layer below our sky image. So let's go over here. Okay, so now let's create a new layer, and we're just gonna use a brush tool, and let's sample some light colors in our mountain over here, and we're just gonna simply paint on those color just like this. Okay, so I think we also need to add some over here. So we're going to go over in this one, the right island. We're going to create a new layer, and let's use a brush tool again, and let's sample this light area on the mountain, and we're just gonna add some atmospheric fog over here. There you go. So I think let's lower the flow to about 2%, just to add some atmospheric depth on the overall photo manipulation. Okay. So if it's too light, you can just lower the opacity by just dragging this opacity slider over here. Okay, so for now I think I need to adjust the mountain over here just to make our photo manipulation balance. So just press Ctrl T, and I'm just gonna drag this one over here just like this. Okay, so there you go. And I'm gonna add some more fog over here in this area. Okay, so I think we need to add more fog on this one, since this mountain over here is farther. So just we're just going to add more fog in this area just like this. Okay, so I think we can actually use a little bit darker tone over here. So I'm going to select this one, and I'm just gonna simply paint on these areas to give it an atmospheric depth. You can also select a darker tones here, and let's create some more fog here just like this. And just to give it a scale perspective, we're gonna add a shark in this area here. So I'm going to click the uppermost layer, and let's drop our shark image. So we're just gonna use a lasso tool, and I'm gonna use this shark over here, and we're just gonna simply drag this one to our skull island. Convert this one to a smart object first. Press Ctrl T, and let's make this one smaller, and right click and flip horizontal, and I'm going to put this shark somewhere over here. We're going to match the color, so let's add a color balance. Let's create a clipping mask and just drag this one over here, and also the blue and some greens, and we're just going to make it a bit darker. So let's go over to brightness, create a clipping mask, and let's lower the brightness just like that. You can also adjust more of the color balance if you aren't satisfied with the result. So just by adding this shark over here, it gives us a perspective that this skull here is really huge compared to a normal shark. Okay, so now let's go over to this uppermost layer. Let's hold Ctrl Alt Shift E to create a merge layer of all the layers. Right click on this one and convert to smart object. Now let's go to filter, and let's add a camera raw filter. So from here, you're free to adjust any settings you want based on your own preference. So I just want to add a bit of texture on this one, so I'm gonna increase this one to about 35 and maybe give it a little bit of clarity. And in the curve, I think I'm gonna add some highlights on this one and some light. And then on the detail, I'm gonna give it a sharpening of about 20. And just play around with all the sliders here until you get the desired result that you want. And whenever you're satisfied, just press OK. So now I think we are done with our photo manipulation tutorial for today. So I hope you've learned something from this tutorial, and if you do, hit that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel and click that bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new content. Thank you so much for watching and see you on my next video.